Hello again and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about aliens, but not in the way that I usually talk about them. I want to talk about why personally I have such a resistance to being sort of locked in as the alien girl, but then also why we need to reframe our thinking about them in general. And I probably mentioned this many years ago, but I really just felt called to deep dive and talk about this today. So, first of all, I've been told that if I were to just make the decision that I'm going to be the expert on the Galactic Federation or the expert on a certain interdimensional species, that I could go really far and I could become really popular because I would be known as an expert in this field. But I could never do that. I have always had a resistance to being the alien girl. And last night I was doing some deep meditation and I wondered why. Why do I resist that? Why do I hold back on stepping into that role? Is it something about me? Is it something about the field? What is it? And what came through is that aliens are not it. They aren't everything. And if I were to decide that that was my mission, that was my goal, that was my focus, that was my purpose, that was my everything, then I would feel like I'm actually limiting what the truth is. Because the truth is that aliens are not the only thing that exists out in the universe. Aliens are just souls that have decided to incarnate as beings that we label aliens. And I think that this is really funny, and I don't know if I can even explain it properly, but when people are like, all aliens are evil, or, like, aliens don't exist, or whatever, I don't know. I just think it's weird because at the end of the day, like, human beings are the exact same thing as aliens. We are souls that have decided to incarnate in these bodies. And the aliens that we label aliens out there consider us aliens here. Like, why can't we all just be interdimensional or incarnated beings? Whether you are a fish or a plant or a human or an Octurian or a gray or an Anunnaki or whatever your label is, whatever your species is in that incarnation, if we just saw everything in this universe and every being and every species in this universe as just that, as a soul that is choosing to show up and incarnate for the purpose of experience and learning and challenge and limitation and growth, then I think we wouldn't have such a stigma around aliens. Like, immediately it feels like it's an us versus them type of thing. And then when we talk about them, it's like everything else out there that has a life form. Like, they even say, like, oh my goodness, we found aliens on this remote planet out there, and it turns out to be some sort of lower life form microorganism, some amoeba that they found on like a different planet, and they're calling it an alien. So why do we have that? Why do we do that? Why do we build such a mentality around the other? If we truly just wiped away labels and we understood that this entire universe is comprised of energy that decides to become matter in order to learn and experience, then all of a sudden we are all on the same playing field. We are all showing up with the exact same intentions. Yes, we're showing up with different limitations, but we're showing up with the same intention. My intention as a soul was to come here to planet Earth to incarnate into this matter body in order to learn and grow and experience through challenge and limitation, and forgetting everything that I ever learned and knew to be true. And so the other thing too is like, I think that even in the spiritual field, there's an assumption that all extraterrestrials or all aliens are better than us. Like, I know for me, I believed right off the gate, especially meeting extraterrestrials for the first time, oh my goodness, like, you are in a higher dimension. You have more advanced technology. You have a more expanded understanding of the universe. You must be better. And within that understanding, same thing of the us versus them, we immediately give our power away to them as being better or even higher. And I think back in the day, back in like sort of ancient days, the more sort of indigenous human beings revered these extraterrestrials. Even if they looked very human, they revered them as gods, because it was an immediate power dynamic of, you're coming to our planet in your flying ships, and you must be some sort of creator being. When once again, they are just souls that are choosing to incarnate in those material bodies, just like we are. There was a moment, and I've said this story before, but it was a long time ago, last time I mentioned this, but I must have been maybe around like 20 years old, and I was, I was in a deep state of meditation. I was in university at the time, and my roommate had a spirit guide, and this spirit guide was a half man, half horse, but he was all blue. And he had a bow and arrow. And it's so funny because she was a Sagittarius, I believe. And I don't know much about astrology. I still don't. I know more than I did before. But I believe that that's like the symbol of Sagittarius, which is bizarre because since then I've never met an astrology symbol represented in a spirit guide. So I just thought there was this weird half man, half horse, blue spirit guide that she had, which was not super abnormal. I've seen like weird beings before. Anyway, so I'm in deep meditation, and all of a sudden he comes to me, and he's like, it almost seems like he's far away, and he's like up on this hill, and he's got his arms crossed, and he's angry at me. And I'm like, hi, like, first of all, what are you doing in my meditation? Like, I'm here to like tune in, tune out. Like, I didn't call you in. Like, what are you doing in my space? And he said, I'm angry at you. And I said, well, why? And he's like, I don't agree with the way that you talked to Hannah last night. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we didn't get into a fight. Like, what's going on? And he's like, you asked her to do the dishes in the sink, and like, you could have asked a different way, and like, that was upsetting. And I said, well, she wasn't upset. I don't know why you're upset. And so I had to have this whole conversation. And then eventually, because he wouldn't let me go, I'm like, can you please leave? Like, there's no issue here. Like, Hannah and I are good. And so eventually I had to call Hannah in. And I said, Hannah, can you come here for a second? I'm sorry. I've got like this blue guy here, and he's like angry at me for the way that I talked to you last night about the dishes. Can you talk to him, please? And she said, hey, dude, like, I don't know what his name was. It came through, but she's like, hey, like, you don't have to be angry. I'm not upset. You shouldn't be upset. And so finally he left, and he was like huffing and puffing and walked away. It was after that moment with my roommate and her spirit guide that I realized that interdimensional beings, higher dimensional beings, non-physical beings even, can still have emotion. And for whatever reason, that experience, that moment, broke this spell for me, this assumption that just because they're in a different frequency or dimension, or they're in a different place, that they're better or know more. There was something so human about this half man, half horse's emotional outburst and anger that told me that they're learning stuff too, and that they aren't necessarily better or more experienced than we are. And so that was the moment for me where I really realized they're also just incarnated beings here on planet Earth. Or sorry, not on planet Earth, but out there in the universe. Like they're just like us. They're just there to experience, to learn, to grow, to have limitations, to have challenges. And so even when I do remote view the Galactic Federation and I go to them and I ask a question, I try and remind people that this isn't the end-all to be-all response for this thing. This isn't like the ultimate truth. This is just one being's perspective. Now, I do ask for the most aligned response. I do ask for the being who has like the best answer out of all the beings on the ship. Every once in a while, if you've been to the Galactic Federation meetings, it's funny, like I'll ask a question and I'll have like sometimes 4 or 5 different beings like getting my attention to want to answer it. And I know that their answers are all going to be very, very similar, but sometimes we need to hear it from one being in particular over another. But realizing that whether they're in the 7th dimension or the 10th dimension or even the 12th dimension, they still have limitation because they are still incarnating. Now, granted, as we incarnate into less dense material forms, they have a better and more expansive understanding of everything. The lower dimension or density you're in, the more polarized of an experience you're going to have, which means that the more lessons you're learning. As you move up through the densities or the dimensions, you are less material, you're less dense, you're less physical, and therefore the lessons that you're learning are more metaphysical, they're more energy-based, because you've gone through the lessons that you needed to go through within the density. So it's like, okay, great. I got a handle on polarity. What else is there? Oh my God, there's quantum, simultaneous experiences that we can have. Like, there's an infinite number of timelines. And so like, how does that work? And how does nonlinear experience work? If you've tackled polarity and you've tackled linear reality, then things get weird, right? And that's why I think it's kind of funny to have people so caught up in politics and so caught up in one side versus the other side and yelling at one side thinking that, well, my side is right and your side is wrong. And I'm here thinking, God, why are you guys still so caught up in polarity? Like, let's move on, right? Like, let's get to the next level. And so I wanted to do this video upon my own sort of deep dive and experience and understanding and curiosity around, why don't I want to be the alien girl? And it's because if I were to only focus on aliens or interdimensionals, or that would be my thing, which is great. I could be the expert on that. I would feel really limited, which is funny. Like, yes, aliens are limiting, but they are. They truly are, because there's so much out there in the universe to talk about, to experience, to explore, to get curious about. And a lot of it has nothing to do with an incarnated experience. Like, what if we just let go of all of the understanding of incarnated experience, alien, human, however you want to label those incarnations, and say, let's talk about the quantum non-physicality of this reality. What is possible if we were to let go of more of the materialistic, the density? What more is there beyond aliens? And that's why I also roll my eyes when we're like, yes, we are still reviewing the 1940s military video of a blip on a screen saying, that's got to be a UFO, right? Oh my goodness, the government has said it's officially a UFO. Oh wow, now we're really questioning who's behind the UFO. It must be some sort of intelligent life. It's like, guys, come on. What if we just assumed that there is intelligent life out there and that they are just the same as us, just maybe a little bit more evolved, or maybe a lot more evolved? And then what? And then what? If we were to live with that assumption, that knowledge, that understanding, what more is there? Let's get beyond existence in this material form itself and explore deeper truths. So that's kind of what I'm feeling into for 2026, honestly. Where do I want to go from here, personally? What is, I know it's like more of like a personal contemplation, but like as a teacher for me and as a student of the universe, what's next? Because gotta love aliens, but aliens aren't it. They're not everything, and they're definitely not something that's going to keep my curiosity piqued for the rest of my life. It's not that I'm ready to move on, because conspiracy and agendas and spiritual growth and third eye awakening and interdimensionals will always be part of my greater understanding of this reality and this universe, and I'll always talk about those things, but I'm ready for more. And I don't know what that looks like, but I am excited to find out. So if you want to know more about my interdimensional connections, then come on in to the most recent Galactic Federation meeting. It's happening this, I want to say Friday, Thursday? Anyway, it's October 11th. And yeah, I'm going to be talking to not just the Galactic Federation, but I'm really feeling called to tune in with the collective, otherwise known as the White Hats. What is going on? Boots on the ground on planet Earth. What's happening? What do we need to know? How can humans help if there is anything to help? But I'm curious, what's going on right now? And then we've got also an emotional alchemy workshop coming up on October 10th. Right before that, if you're feeling a little misaligned, please check that out. And then beyond that, on October 18th, I am giving a free coaching call away. Essentially, it is a free ticket. You just sign up to, and then you get your Zoom link. You can actually go on to Instagram and message me free coaching, and you'll get the Zoom link right away to register. Spots are limited, so just keep that in mind. And I will be live remote viewing on that coaching call. So please be aware of that. It's just something I feel I need to do at this time because a lot of people are needing a lot of help. Other than that, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment down below what you want to see from me, and maybe it'll spark a little bit of that curiosity back into my field so that I can find a direction, or maybe no direction is the ultimate direction. Other than that, I love you guys so much. Keep up the good work. Until next time, bye for now.